Hey friends, was machst du? Everybody okay? Of course. Y'all doing great. I know. Friends, today we're studying together Daf Kuf Lamed Aleph of Masechta Shabbis, Daf 131. Yeah, it's a cool daf today. At the beginning there's like a little bit of a Eruvin kind of piece. I guess we can't really get too far in Masechta Shabbis without overlapping with Masechta Eruvin, but I think maybe it's also good to make sure we don't get rusty now. We don't rest on our laurels, I think that's the word, before Masechta Eruvin, which is already around the corner. Exciting stuff. A little scary stuff, but exciting maybe also. But in any event, we're going to start off with the shtickle Eruvin, right? Carrying in a mavui. Can you carry in your mavui? Then we're going to get back to Rabbi Eliezer and talk about what is his perspective towards machshirei mitzvah. Are they docha Shabbos? Are they not docha Shabbos? And that'll pretty much take us to the end of the daf. So other than the first part, which is shtickle Eruvini and Eruvi, other than that, it's really not too difficult. Friends, let's move on. So we still have some work to do on Kuf Lamed Amud Beis. So we're about probably between 10 and 15 lines from the bottom, just because there wasn't really a good place to stop otherwise. So here we go. Itmar, Amr Reb Zera, Amr Rav. Reb Zera says in the name of Rav, Mavi shalin ishtatvu bo, emetatzon bo ele b'dalet amis. Okay, if you have a mavui, friends, let's review what a mavui is. Even though we reviewed it, what it is yesterday, we'll do it again today. You have Rishus HaRabim. You have Main Street. Rishus HaRabim. Now, connected to the Rishus HaRabim is an alleyway. You can turn out of the Rishus HaRabim into this alleyway. And this is our mavui. Now, imagine on either side, let's say there's two walls in the alleyway, on the right and on your left. So on either side of the wall is a courtyard. You can turn off from this alleyway into a courtyard on either side of the alleyway. And within this courtyard, there are two homes that open up into the courtyard. That is what we're working with over here, okay? So Reb Zera is saying in the name of Rav that if you have a mavui, okay, so you turn off of Main Street, you walk into this alleyway. So ein metaltalin bo ele b'dalet amis. You can only carry something for amis in there. Meaning, if you turn, and we'll elaborate on this more in a second. So if you turn off of Main Street and you go into this alleyway, okay, and you're not carrying anything right now, but in the alleyway there's a baseball darting. The question is, can you pick up the baseball and walk for amis? So Reb Zera is saying in the name of Rav that if they did not do shitufei mivoos, what's shitufei mivoos? We talked about this a little bit yesterday. Shitufei mivoos is the equivalent of eruvei chatzeros, but for a mavui. So we know that, looking now at the courtyard for a minute. So in each of the two courtyards, there are two homes that open up into the courtyard. Now, I would not be allowed to take something from my home and take it out into the courtyard on Shabbos, because since there are two homes that share that courtyard, so the Chacham made a gezerah that we don't want people taking things from inside their home out into the courtyard, out of concern that people might take things from their home into Rishus HaRabim. So the only way you can, so even though the courtyard be'etzem is a Rishus HaYachid, surrounded by four walls, but nonetheless we say do not take something from your home, which is a Rishus HaYachid, into the Chatzar, which is a Rishus HaYachid, unless you make an Eruv. And I don't remember all the details of the Eruv. I'm sure that we will know them quite well soon enough when we get to Eruvin. But basically they join together by way of like some kind of bread that they have in somebody's house or something. And they join together, and now it all becomes like one Rishus that they share, in which case you can carry from wherever you want now once you've made this Eruv, right, from your house to the Chatzar, to your friend's house, whatever it might be. Fine. So that is eruvei chatzeros, right? To join together all of the homes that are in this courtyard to make them like one rishus. Now, that just means that you can carry from your house into the courtyard and vice versa, right? Or into your friend's house, whatever it might be. But what if I want to take something from my house not to my friend's house in my courtyard, but to my friend's house who lives in the courtyard, the opposite courtyard, on the other side of the alleyway. Because after all, there were courtyards on either side of the alleyway, right? So an Eruve Chatzeros is only going to enable me to carry stuff within my courtyard. What if I want to be able to carry stuff to the opposite courtyard? Well, in that case, I would have to do a shitufei mivos, which, if I understand correctly, is basically the same thing as an eruve chatzeros, but instead of it being for the two houses, or the however many houses are in that particular chatzer, it joins together the different chatzeros that are part of that mavui, that branch off of that mavui, to now enable you to carry stuff from one chatzer to the other chatzer. Once we make a shitufei mivos, I hope that that's what I said, once we make a shitufei mivos, so now, not only can I carry from my house to other people's houses in my chatzer, but I can even carry from my house in my chatzer to my friend's house in the other chatzer on the other side of the mavui. That is shitufei mivos. Now, what Reb Zera is saying in the name of Rab is that if you did not do a shitufei mivos, then you may not carry the baseball 4 amos, right? Is that what we said? Right? So if there was no shitufei mivos, Reb Zera is saying in the name of Rab that you may not carry the baseball more than 4 amos. Okay? Now, one other thing I'm going to point out, because it's going to come up, the only way we can even actually, let's not get there yet. Okay, fine. So, that is what Reb Zera says in the name of Rab, that in order to, so if you have a mavui and there was no shitufei mivos, you may not carry Talad Amos in that mavui. Fine. Amar Abaye, says Abaye, Hamilsa Amar Reb Zera v'lo persha ad asar Rabba bar Avua ufersha. Says Abaye. Now, Reb Zera made this statement in the name of Rav that if you have a mavui where there was no shitufei mivos, you can only carry up to 4 amos and no more. He made this statement, but he didn't actually explain it in detail until Rabba bar Avua came and explained it in detail. Then we kind of understood everything we needed to know about that statement. Dam Rav Nachman, Am Rabba bar Avua, Am Rav. Mavui shelo nishtatvu bo. Okay, so if you have a mavui and they did not do shitufei mivos. Now, here we go, friends. Listen to this distinction. Ervu chatzeris im batim ein metaltalim bo ela bedalad amis. Lo ervu chatzeris im batim muter letaltal bechulo. Friends, did you hear what just happened? Let's read it slowly. A mavui shelo nishtatvu bo. Right? That if you have a mavui, that there's no shitufei mivos. Now, ervu chatzeris im batim. Now, it depends. If the individual courtyards had an eruve chatzeros, right? So the homes in each courtyard joined together so that would enable them to carry from one house into the courtyard, into the other house, but only within the courtyard, an eruve chatzeris, ein metaltalin bo ela bedalet amis. So if the chatzeris did an eruve chatzeros, but there was no shitufei mivos to enable you to carry from one chatzer to the other chatzer, well then, you may only carry within 4 amos when you are in the mavui. Lo eruv chatzeros in batim. However, if there was no eruve chatzeros in the courtyards, well then muter letaltal bechulo, you can carry as much as you want in the mavui. Okay? So, remember, Reb Zera said in the name of Rav that when you have a mavui and there was no shitufei mivos, you may only carry up to 4 amos. Comes Rav Nachman in the name of Rabba bar Avua, in the name of Rav, and remember Reb Zera was saying in the name of Rav, so now we're sort of explaining Rav's opinion, that it actually depends. We only say that you're allowed to carry up to 4 amos, but no more in the mavui that doesn't have a shitufei mivos. That is only when the courtyards on either side of the mavui did an eruve chatzeros. If they did, and we're going to have to explain why, but if they did an eruve chatzeros, only then would you not be allowed to carry more than 4 amos in this mavui that there was no shitufei mevoos. However, if there was no eruve chatzeros in the courtyards, meaning that within the courtyards, none of the homeowners would be allowed to take anything out of their house into the courtyard because there's no eruv, well, in that case, you would be allowed to carry as much as you want in the mavui. We're going to have to explain how come the existence or non-existence of this eruve chatzeris has a nafkamina for whether or not I can carry more than 4 amos in the mavui. Okay, we're going to learn about that now. Okay, but what we just learned was that when Reb Zera says in the name of Rav that you're only allowed to carry up to 4 amos and no more in a mavui that does not have shitufei mevoos, that's not a blanket statement. It actually depends whether or not the chatzeris did an eruve chatzeris. If they did do an eruve chatzeris, that is when Reb Zera said in the name of Rab that you would not be allowed to carry more than 4 amos in the mavui. If they did not do an eruve chatzeris, well then you would be allowed to carry more than 4 amos in this mavui that doesn't have a shitufei mevoos. And now I want to just point out one more thing, that in order to be able to carry in a mavui, so for example, in this case that we just said, you have a chatzer on either side of the alleyway of the mavui, and these chatzeros did not make an eruve chatzeros. There's no shitufei mevoos. There's none of this stuff. Everything's just like plain. Nobody did anything, right? As we would say in computer programming, vanilla, just kind of plain. So, in that case, so we say that you can go from Main Street into the mavui and you can carry in the mavui, right? It's no problem. So, however, in order to carry in a mavui, you do need to have a lechi or a korah, as has come up in the past, right? A lechi would be a vertical standing beam or pillar, and a korah would be a pillar that goes, or a beam that goes from one wall of the alleyway to the other wall across horizontally, as a heker that, hey, this is where the mavui and Rishus HaRabim meet, don't cross this line. As long as the mavui has a lechi or a korah, well then you can carry in the mavui as much as you want. Okay? Fine. Now, Amr le Reb Chanina Choza le Rabba. So now Reb Chanina Choza asks Rabba. He wants to understand why does it make a difference whether or not the courtyards made a eruve chatzeros. Why should that have any effect on whether or not I can carry in this mavui that there's no shitufei mevoos? Mai shna ki ervu chatzeres im batim. What's the difference when these courtyards made an eruve chatzeres with the houses that are in the courtyard? Well, is it because denisku chatzeres v'naisu batim? Well, is it because, well, basically the chatzer goes away. Meaning, when there's no eruve chatzeres, well then when we look at the chatzer, well you have a courtyard. In the courtyard there's 2 houses. You can't carry from one house into the courtyard because, from a house into the courtyard because of this din d'Rabbanan. However, what's the solution? You do an eruve chatzeres. You join together all the houses in the, right, into like one big Rishus HaYachid kind of thing. And there's no longer a courtyard with 2 houses. It's basically just one Rishus, and the concept of the courtyard as a courtyard goes away. It just becomes like one house almost. Okay. And therefore, the Rav l'taime, and Rav is according to his reasoning, the Amar Rav, that Rav said, remember, all this stuff is Rav so far. Reb Zera in the name of Rav, Rav Nachum, Amar Rabba bar Avua, Amar Rav. So now, this is according to Rav, that he says, in a mavui nitar belechi v'korah, that when we say that as long as there is a lechi, a vertical pillar, or a korah, a horizontal beam, when we say that as long as there's a lechi or a korah, you would be allowed to carry as much as you want in a mavui, ad shiyu batim b'chatzeres psuchin l'socho. When we say that you're allowed to carry in a mavui as much as you want, as long as there's a lechi and a korah, that is also, that's not it. There's more requirements. There's also a requirement that there needs to be at least 2 courtyards opening into that mavui, and within each of the 2 courtyards there has to be at least 2 houses. Now here's the thing. But over here, when you make an eruve chatzeris, as we just said, batim ika chatzeris leka. In this case, though, you don't have chatzeris. We said that in the case where each of the 2 courtyards made in eruve chatzeros, well, you no longer have conceptually a courtyard with 2 houses in it. What you have is basically one rishus hayachid, ki'ilu, as if it's like one house. And therefore, instead of now having a mavui that attached to the mavui is a chatzer, 2 chatzeros, and within each of the 2 chatzeros there are 2 houses. No, you don't have that. What you have essentially is a mavui, and branched off of the mavui is now just basically 2 houses. There's no longer the concept of a chatzer, since they did an eruve chatzeros and made it into one rishus. And for that reason, Rav would say that you're not allowed to carry more than 4 amas in the mavui anymore, because he only says that you're allowed to carry in a mavui that has a lechi and a korah when, in addition to the mavui, there is a chatzer, there are 2 chatzeres, and within each of those 2 chatzeres there are 2 houses. That doesn't exist when you have an eruve chatzeres in the chatzeres. But Rav Chanina Choza, he doesn't understand. But kilo ervu, but when they didn't make an eruve chatzeres, well nami. Lechzinu lahane batim kiman destime damu. Vachzeres ika uvatem leka. Well, if that's the reason that when there is eruve chatzeres, I'm not allowed to carry in the mavui because you don't have this requirement of a mavui with 2 courtyards, and in each of the 2 courtyards you have 2 houses. Well, then how come when there's no eruve chatzeris, are you allowed to carry in the mavui? Because again, in order to carry in the mavui, you would have to have a mavui, and on either side of the mavui, you would have a courtyard, and within each courtyard there are 2 houses, and all of that is opening up into the mavui. But, let's say that when there's no eruve chatzeris, well, the fact of the matter is, it's ki'ilu, you can't take something from your house into the mavui, right? You can't even take it from your house into the chatzer. So it's not like, it's not like you have houses that open it up into the mavui, right? It's as if there's like a separation between the house and the mavui by way of this chatzer that you're not allowed to carry into, right? Meaning, Rav says that in order to carry in this mavui, right, you have to have a mavui that has branched off of it both chatzeros and houses. But since when there's no eruve chatzeros, you can't carry from your house into the chatzer, let alone into the mavui, well then it's only as if this mavui has courtyards that are attached to it, but the houses are completely sort of closed off from the mavui, in that you can't even take anything out into the chatzer, they're like blocked by the chatzer. The chatzer is like a separation between the house and the mavui, so therefore it's only as though the courtyards are attached to the mavui, but the houses that are in these courtyards are completely closed off from the mavui, since the courtyard prevents you from being able to take anything from your house into the mavui. It's a little bit conceptual, and we're going to reject this. But that is the havamina of the Gemara, to say that because you cannot carry anything from the house into the chatzer in the absence of an eruv chatzeros, well then it's no longer as if there's houses that open up into the mavui, and that is a requirement of Rav, that in order to carry in a mavui, there would have to be both courtyards and houses that open into the mavui. However, because there's no eruv chatzeros, it's as if there are only courtyards that open to the mavui, but the houses are considered disconnected from the mavui, since the chatzer prevents you from being able to take something from the house into the mavui. So therefore, we still don't necessarily understand the opinion of Rav, right? If we're trying to understand Rav's opinion, which is that when there is no eruv chatzeris, you would be allowed to carry in the mavui more than 4 amos. okay? But when there is a Ruvei Chatzeros, you would not be allowed to carry more than 4 amos in the mavui. And in both cases, we're talking about a mavui that doesn't have a shitufei mavos, right? So if we're trying to base it by Rav's premise that, well, in order to carry in a mavui, you need 2 chatzeros, and within each of these 2 chatzeros, there has to be 2 houses that open up into each chatzer. Well, based on that, I can argue that whether there's a Ruvei Chatzeros, whether there's no Ruvei Chatzeros, I still would not be able to carry more than Daled Amos in the mavui, because we do not have the requirement of 2 courtyards branched off of the mavui, and within each of the 2 courtyards having 2 houses that open into the mavui. Fine. Okay, fine. So kilo ervunami. So also when there's no erev, lechzinu lahani batim kmandestimi damu. Let's essentially treat these houses as if they're closed off from the mavui. Vachzeros iko vatim leko. All we have is courtyards that open up into the mavui, but we don't have houses that open up into the mavui. So the Gemara answers, well, you can kind of do a hack to get around that and say efshir demevat lele reshusa dechulu legabe chad. Well, everyone in the courtyard could technically be mevatel their access to the courtyard to just one person, right? So what they can do theoretically is, so in each of the 2 courtyards, there are 2 houses. Theoretically, so you have Reuven as a house and Shimon as a house. So they can agree that, you know what, only Reuven has access to the courtyard, not Shimon. Now, if, let's say I have a house and my house is in a courtyard and I'm the only house in the courtyard. Well, if I'm the only house in the courtyard and I own everything, well, then I can carry from my house into the courtyard. And therefore, now back to our case where in the courtyard there are 2 houses. Well, if Shimon agrees that he's going to be mevatel his rights to the courtyard, well then Reuven is essentially the only person who has access to the courtyard, in which case he should be allowed to carry into the courtyard on Shabbos. And in this case, there's no Ruvei Chatzeris, and you do have a chatzer branching off of the mavui, and in the chatzer there is this house, and from the house you're able to sort of go take things into the chatzer, and therefore you have both, it's considered as if you have a house and a chatzer that are connected to the mavui. So in that case, that is why when there is no Eruvei Chatzeris, I can carry in the mavui as much as I'd like. Because Rav says that in order to carry in the mavui, I have to have Chatzeris and houses that open up into the mavui. And here I have the mavui, I have the Chatzer. In the Chatzer, even though there's multiple houses, they were all mevatel their rights to the Chatzer to just one house. So therefore that person in that house can take into the Chatzer, and then and there's no Eruvei Chatzeros, he could take from his house into the Chatzer, and they both are considered to open up into the mavui. Rav has his requirement of, in order to carry in a mavui, you need the Chatzeros and the batim to be open into the mavui, and therefore you would be able to carry more than 4 amos. Okay? But the Gemara says that's not going to work. Sof, bayasika, batim leka. So the Gemara says, yeah, but that's not going to work because Rav's requirement is that you need batim, you need multiple homes opening up into the mavui. Here there's only one home, since everyone else was mevatel their rights to the chatzer to only one guy, which means only his home is considered opening into the mavui. So you don't have batim, you only have bayis. Efshar the mitzafer vad palga diyom legabi chad, mi palga diyom v'lefanya legabi chad. Well, okay, let's do another hack. Wow, this sounds like a bad idea. Hacks upon hacks. You know what that leads to? Bugs. In any event, let's just say that you know what? Reuven will have access to the chutzner for half the day. Shimon will have access to the chutzner for the other half of the day. So it's keilu now. There's batim. There's multiple houses because throughout the day you have more than one house that can go into the chutzner, and then they can, and that's connected to the mavui. Fine. But be'idna de'isei lahai le'isei lahai. But still, at any given point, there's only one chatzer, there's only one house that opens up that can go into a chatzer, and then from there to the mavui. So, rather, scratch this whole mahalech, elo amar Rav Ashi, migarim lachatzeros she'irasu batim ve'leka. So, rather, Rav Ashi comes to explain what's going on. Remember, what is Rav's opinion? Rav's opinion is that when you have this mavui, and in the mavui, there is no shitufei mevoos, okay? We're saying that now it depends. If there is no Eruv Chatzeris, well then you would be allowed to carry 4 amas in the mavui. If there is Eruv Chatzeris, you cannot carry 4 amos into the mavui. The question is, why? So Rav Ashi answers, and he says the following, that, well, this is Rav's opinion. Now, in Eruvin, Rav holds like Reb Shimon. We saw Reb Shimon's opinion a little bit yesterday. Reb Shimon's opinion is that you are allowed to carry between a chatzer and a gag and a karpaf, and now there's an additional thing, also a mavui. According to Reb Shimon, if let's say you have this, let's say you have a baseball, and the baseball is in your chatzer, okay? And when Shabbos starts, this baseball is in your courtyard, it's in your chatzer. Well then, all Shabbos long, you can transfer this baseball from your chatzer to the mavui, to the roof, to this non-residential space, this karpaf. You can move around between these things, no problem at all. However, and that is why, when there is no eruve chatzeris in the chatzer, well then, you can carry daled ames in the mavui, because anything that was in the mavui when Shabbos started, so let's say this baseball was in the mavui, well then I can carry it 4 amas in the mavui, because even if I carry it into the chatzer, it's no big deal. You can carry from a mavui to a chatzer, to a gag, to a karpaf, no problem. However, things get more complicated when there's an eruve chatzeris. Because when there's an eruve chatzeris, well then I'm allowed to carry things between my house and my chatzer. Now, this baseball that's lying in the chatzer, maybe when Shabbos started, it wasn't in the chatzer. Maybe when Shabbos started, it was in my house. And now I brought it out to the chatzer. Now, and when Reb Shimon says, as we learned yesterday, when Reb Shimon says that you're allowed to carry between a chatzer and a mavui and a gag and a karpaf, that's only things that when Shabbos started, they were in these places. But if this baseball was inside of my home when Shabbos started, while I can carry it out to the chatzer because of the eruv chatzeris, I cannot carry it to a mavui, to a gag, to a karpaf, cannot do that anymore. And therefore, when there's an eruv chatzeris, while it allows me to carry things between my house and my chatzer, I now have to be more concerned about the mavui, about the gag, about the karpaf, but in our case, the mavui. And therefore, when there's eruv chatzeris, which means that there might be things in the chatzer that were not there when Shabbos started, now I have to be more strict when it comes to the mavui. And I can't carry daled amas in the mavui anymore, because now I have to be concerned about, right, certainly between carrying from the chatzer into the mavui, but it could be that at this point, I'm not sure, maybe there wouldn't be an issue from carrying to the mavui to the chatzer. That I'm not sure about. That could be okay, because since the baseball was there when Shabbos started, so why can't I carry from the mavui to the chatzer? But maybe the concern is, well, if I can carry from the mavui to the chatzer, well then I might carry from the chatzer to the mavui, and then maybe the thing from the chatzer was not there when Shabbos started. It becomes more complicated once already there's eruv chatzeris, right? Really, ideally, what you're going to want to do is, in addition to eruv chatzeris, you'll have shitufei mavos, and then you can just carry from your house to the chatzer, to your friend's house, to the other courtyard, everywhere. But in a situation where you made an eruv chatzeris, but no shitufei mavos, well then things become more complicated because we don't know where things were when Shabbos started, and therefore, you would not be allowed to carry more than daled amos in the mavui. However, if there's no eruv chatzeris, and therefore we know that anything that is in the chatzer now was there when Shabbos started, well then I can carry between the chatzer and the mavui, etc., and there's nothing to worry about, and I can also carry daled amos in the mavui. We don't have to make any gezeres and any concerns. That is Rav Ashi's opinion, and therefore I'll read it inside. Ela Amar Rav Ashi, says Rav Ashi, Migarim lechatzeres sheyer asu. What caused what made it asur to carry between the chatzeros and the mavui? Batim. Well, the fact that there were these houses that you're carrying between the houses and the chatzer, right? Meaning the reason why I can't carry between the mavui and the chatzer and the mavui is because of these houses that are in the chatzer, that you did an eruv chatzeros with, that you may have carried things between the chatzer and the house on Shabbos, and because of that I have to be concerned about carrying things from a chatzer to a mavui, and back and forth. So therefore, but if you didn't do an eruv chatzeros, which means that there are no stuff from the houses that are going to be in the chatzer, well then, vileka, that's not a factor, and therefore you would be allowed to carry daled amos in the mavui. Wow, it was definitely detailed, right? There were a lot of details there, but friends, we're done with the mavui, eruvin kind of stuff now. So, that was that. Okay, says the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Says Rabbi Chia bar Abba, in the name of his Rebbe, Rabbi Yochanan, Lo lakol, Amar Rabbi Eliezer, machshir mitzvah dochen es a-Shabbos. When Rabbi Eliezer says that machshir mitzvah are dochen es a-Shabbos, where did he say that? Obviously, he said it yesterday in our Mishnah, that when it comes to the izmol, when it comes to the knife for the bris milah, so when it comes to the izmol, Rabbi Eliezer said that you're allowed to carry it in Rosh Hashanah on the way to go so that you can do the bris milah on Shabbos. So even though it's not the bris milah itself, but it's sort of meta stuff, it's taking the knife to the bris milah, that is doches Shabbos. And then he goes even further and he says you can even chop down trees to make charcoal, to make a fire, to make a knife, to do bris milah. But he doesn't say that by every mitzvah. He does not say that by every mitzvah, that any mitzvah that its mitzvah is to do on Shabbos, that the machshir mitzvah would be doches Shabbos. He doesn't say that for every mitzvah. She'arei, and what's the proof? Well, shtei alechem chovas hayom hein. When it comes to the two breads, what are the two breads? The two breads are the korban that we bring, the offering that we bring on Shavuos. On Shavuos we bring the shtei alechem, which is 2 loaves of wheat chametz bread. So you have to bring them on Shavuos. You can't bring them the day after Shavuos. You got to bring them on Shavuos. Now, what if Shavuos falls on Shabbos? Is the shtei alechem doches Shabbos? The answer is yes. And not only is the shtei alechem doches Shabbos, well, the shtei alechem doesn't necessarily have to be doches Shabbos, it's just an offering. But what if you didn't bake it before Shabbos? Can you bake the shtei alechem on Shavuos that falls out on Shabbos? Obviously you can bake bread on Shavuos, because it's ochel nefesh. But what about if Shavuos is on Shabbos? Is baking the shtei alechem, which is not the mitzvah itself, but it's sort of the machshirei mitzvah, it's in order to prepare the mitzvah. So can you bake the shtei alechem on Shabbos when Shavuos falls out on Shabbos? So Rabbi Eliezer says yes, you can, because machshirei mitzvah are going to be doches Shabbos for the shtei alechem. But he doesn't just say that baking the shtei alechem is doches Shabbos because all machshirei mitzvah are always doches Shabbos. No, rather, flo limdan Rabbi Eliezer ella migzera shava. He had to learn it out from migzera shava. Meaning, if he didn't have this gzera shava when it comes to shtei alechem, the gzera shava that we're about to learn from Omer, then he would not assume that the machshirei shtei alechem would be doches Shabbos. It's only because there was a gzera shava that he holds that machshirei shtei alechem are doches Shabbos. The Tanya, as we learn in the Brisa, Rabbi Eliezer Omer, minayin the machshirei shtei alechem shedochen es Shabbos. How do we know that the meta stuff for shtei alechem, that the machshirei shtei alechem, that the baking of the shtei alechem is doches Shabbos? Nemra hava'a ba'omer v'nemra hava'a b'shtei alechem. Well, because it says hava'a by the korban omer, and it says hava'a by the shtei alechem. What does it say by the korban omer? It says miyom haviachem es omer tnufa, and by shtei alechem it says mimoshvosechem taviu. So we see hava'a by the omer as well as by the shtei alechem. Ma hava'a ha'amura be'omer machshirin dochen es Shabbos. Just like by the korban omer, the machshirin are doche Shabbos. So if the korban omer wasn't, let's say, harvested or anything like that, you can harvest it on Shabbos. Well, then also we learn out from this gzeira shava of hava'a that by shtei alechem as well, if you didn't bake it yet, you can bake it on Shabbos. Now the Gemara goes into a little bit of like a parenthetical thing, and mufni, de'ilo mufni, ikele mifrach. This gzeira shava is mufni. What does gzeira shava mufni mean? We've seen it before. It means that the two words, these two hava'as, are extra. They're not needed to teach me anything that I wouldn't have known otherwise. And because these two hava'ot are extra, that's why they are available for us to learn this gzeira shava. And that's why you can't ask any questions on this gzeira shava. This gzeira shava, it's as if it's written explicitly in the Torah, this hava'a and hava'a that it says by the shtei alechem and by the omer. And therefore, this is as if it's written in the Torah and there's no asking any questions. The lo mufne, because if these two words were not available to be used exclusively for this gzeira shava, well then I'll be able to ask you a question on this comparison between omer and shtei alechem. Ikele mifrach, you can ask, mala omer, that when it comes to the korban omer, shekein imatza katsur kotzer, that the Korban Omer is more makil, it's more lenient in that, let's say you went to the field to harvest the barley for the Korban Omer and you found that it was already harvested. No problem. You can harvest more. It's no big deal. We're makil. No big deal. You can even harvest more. Tomar b'shtei alechem. Are you just going to compare that to the shtei alechem? Shematza katsur eino kotzer. That if he gets there and he finds that there's wheat that's already been harvested, he's not allowed to harvest more. We're more strict when it comes to shtei alechem. And therefore I might think that even though we say that machshirei mitzvah are doche Shabbos for the Korban Omer, that's because we're more makil for whatever reason by the Korban Omer. But when it comes to the shtei alechem, we're more machmir. After all, if you get to the field and you find that the wheat has already been harvested, you're not allowed to harvest more. So therefore I might think that if you didn't bake the shtei alechem yet on Shavuos that falls out on Shabbos, you cannot bake it on Shabbos. And therefore it's only because this is a rock solid gezerah shava that both havaot, that when it says hava'ah by Omer and when it says hava'ah by shtei alechem, both of them are available, are free for the gezerah shava. That is what makes this gezerah shava set in stone, and you can't ask any questions. You cannot ask that question of, well, Omer is more makil and it makes sense that the machshirei mitzvah would be docha Shabbos for the Omer, but maybe not for the shtei alechem. Forget it. Don't ask any questions because it is a rock solid gezerah shava. So now the Gemara says, Le'i afnuye mufne. What do you mean that both of these havaot are free for the gezerah shava? Michde, let's see. Okay, fine. So in the context of Omer, I get it. It says already, it says that you will bring the Korban Omer, the first of the harvested barley, to the Kohen. Miyom aviachem lamali. Why do I need this hava'ah when it says miyom aviachem? Clearly, shma milala afnuye. Clearly it is extra, it's not needed, it can be used for a gezerah shava. But va'akate mufne mitzad echadu. But that is only one half of the equation. That's only the Omer hava'ah being free. It's only free from one side. V'sham'inan le'el Rabbi Eliezer, and we know that Rabbi Eliezer's opinion is the Omer mufne mitzad echad lemeidin u'meshivin, that when you have a gezerah shava that is only one half of the equation, only one of the sides are completely free, but the other side is not completely free. While you learn a gezerah shava from it, fine, but you can also ask questions on it. And here we'll ask the question of, well, shtei alechem is more strict. I can't just assume that the machshirei shtei alechem are docha Shabbos. So rather the Gemara answers taviu ribuyahu. No, taviu is also extra. You can theoretically read the pasuk without the word taviu and it would make sense. Therefore taviu is extra, and because it's extra, that one is also mufne, and both the hava'ah by the Omer and by the shtei alechem, they're both mufne, they're both available, they're free, and therefore we can make this rock solid gezerah shava and say that the machshirei shtei alechem are also doche Shabbos. Fine. The Gemara says, Lemutei mai. When Rabbi Eliezer says, when Rabbi Chia bar Abba says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that Rabbi Eliezer doesn't say that just all machshirei mitzvah are doche Shabbos. Only certain machshirei mitzvah, such as carrying the izmol in the Rosh Hashanah, such as shtei alechem when Shavuos falls out on Shabbos. But what would be an example of something that is a mitzvah to do on Shabbos that the machshirei mitzvah would not be doche Shabbos? Lemutei mai. What is being excluded? What's an example of a mitzvah that needs to be done on Shabbos that it's machshirei mitzvah or not doche Shabbos? Ilema lemutei lulav. If you're going to say lulav, that there's a mitzvah, if the first day of Sukkot falls out on Shabbos, while maybe lulav itself might be doche Shabbos. I know we don't take the lulav, don't shake the lulav on Shabbos. That's because of the gezerah derava or takana derava. I think maybe takana derava. In any event, but midaraisa, you would bring, you would shake the lulav on Shabbos. So then, okay, so if we're going to say, but the machshirei lulav, if you have to cut it down from the tree, you wouldn't be able to do that on Shabbos. V'atanya lulav v'chol machshir of dochenes Shabbos. But one second, we have a brisa that says that not only the lulav, but also all of its meta stuff, like cutting it down from the tree, are doche Shabbos, divrei Rabbi Eliezer, according to Rabbi Eliezer. Ve'lemutei sukkah. So let's say it's sukkah, right? So sukkah you would do on Shabbos, but you wouldn't necessarily, let's say, build your sukkah on Shabbos. Ve'atanya sukkah v'chol machshira doche nesa Shabbos. Sukkah in all of its machshira, in all of its meta stuff, are doche Shabbos, divrei Rabbi Eliezer. Ve'lemutei matzah. What about matzah? What if I need to bake the matzah on the first day of Pesach? Rabbi Eliezer says that matzah and all of its machshirin are also doche Shabbos. Shofar. What about if I need to get a shofar? Rabbi Eliezer says that shofar and all of its machshirin are doche Shabbos. So, what is the example where Rabbi Eliezer would say that even though you can do the mitzvah on Shabbos, its machshirin are not doche Shabbos? The answer is tzitzis and mezuzah. Right? Tzitzis you wear every day if you're wearing a four-cornered garment. And let's say it's Shabbos and you have your four-cornered garment but it doesn't have tzitzis on it. Can you tie the tzitzis on Shabbos? So we say Rabbi Eliezer is going to say no. Or what about a mezuzah? If you don't have a mezuzah on your door, can you nail it into your door on Shabbos? Right? Mezuzah is always a mitzvah every day. So can you nail it into your door on Shabbos? So we're saying that according to Rabbi Eliezer, no. You cannot nail the mezuzah into your doorpost. You cannot tie your tzitzis on Shabbos. These machshirei mitzvah. Tanya Namiyachi, we also learn in a brayso like this. V'shavin, that everyone agrees, Shem tziyetz taliso v'asam mezuzah lepischo shu chayav, that if he tied strings on his tzitzis or he nailed a mezuzah to his doorpost, he would be chayav. My taima. How come he would be chayav for doing these machshirei mitzvah on Shabbos? Amr of Yosef, fi she'en kavua lohem zman. Because there's no specific time for these mitzvahs. I mean, tzitzis I think is dafka a daytime mitzvah, but in any event, maybe you could say, because even if it's lying in a box, maybe it would still be chayiv if it has four corners. Fine. So since there's no specific time for these mitzvahs, so therefore their machshirin are not doche Shabbos. Right? Meaning there's always a mitzvah to have mezuzah on your door. There's always a mitzvah to have strings on a four-cornered garment. Omrle Abaye, Adrabba, Midain Kavua Lohem Zman, Kol Shaita V'Shaita Zmaniu. Abaye argues on Rav Yosef, and he says, what do you mean? I'll say the opposite. Since there's no specific time, every instant is its time. It's always time for tzitzis. It's always time for mezuzah. So then certainly I should be able to do the machshirei mitzvah. Ella, Amr of Nachman, Amr of Yitzchak, V'itemer of Huna B'ed of Yoshua, Hol V'yadu Lafkirin. No, since you can be mafkir these things, problem solved. Right? If I have my four-cornered garment that doesn't have tzitzis on it, well, I can always just say, hey, not my garment anymore. I'm making it ownerless. In which case, I don't have a chiyuv to put on tzitzis. I can be mafkir my house. In which case, I don't have a chiyuv to have a mezuzah on my doorpost. I can't be mafkir my chiyuv to shake a lulav on sukkahs. Right? That doesn't exist. So therefore, the machshirei lulav can be doche Shabbos. Machshirei mezuzah, machshirei tzitzis are not doche Shabbos. Omar Rav, said Rav, no, not Rav. Amar Mar, we said earlier, Lulav v'chol machshirav dochenes HaShabbos. So now for the rest of the page, we're going to be doing almost like a Chad Gadya kind of thing. We're going to list one thing and then the thing that came before it and the thing that came before it, like kind of things like that. So here we go. Amar Mar, we said earlier, Lulav v'chol machshirav dochenes HaShabbos divrei Rabbi Eliezer. That a lulav and all of its like meta stuff, let's say if you need to cut it down from the tree, it's doche Shabbos. Fine. How does Rabbi Eliezer know that lulav and all of its meta stuff is doche Shabbos? Well, maybe you'll say, well, if the omer and the shtei alechem, their machshirin are doche Shabbos, well then, let's say that lulav also, it's machshirin are doche Shabbos. Sheken tzorech gavoa, but you can't because omer and shtei alechem is different. They are a tzorech gavoa. They are a korban that goes to God. And lulav isn't a korban that goes to God, and therefore, even though you can be the machshirin doche Shabbos for omer and shtei alechem, we can't assume that the machshirei lulav would be doche Shabbos. Ela Amar Kra, rather the pasuk says bayom. Right? It says l'kachtem lechem bayom arishon, bayom afilu b'Shabbos. It means during the day, even if that day is Shabbos. Ulamai ilchasa. And what's it teaching about lulav that you can do even on Shabbos? Tiltul, it's tichral mishrei tiltul. If you're going to say that you can take the lulav on Shabbos, well, why wouldn't I be able to take the lulav on Shabbos? Because of muktzah? Muktzah is a din d'Rabbanan. I don't need a pasuk to say that I can move lulav on Shabbos. Rather, it is saying that the meta stuff of sukkah, of lulav, you can even do on Shabbos, like cutting it down from a tree. According to the Rabbanan, who say that you cannot cut down a lulav from a tree on Shabbos, if it's also the first day of Sukkot. What do they do with bayom? They say bayom v'lo balayla, that the mitzvah of lulav is during the day, it's not at night. Rabbi Eliezer bayom v'lo balayla minale. How does Rabbi Eliezer know that the mitzvah of lulav is only during the day and not at night? Nafkale mi usmachtem lifnei Hashem elokechem shivas yamim v'lo leilos. Well, Rabbi Eliezer learns it out from the pasuk that says that you will rejoice, you'll take your lulav and you'll rejoice in front of God for 7 days. 7 days, not 7 nights. Rabbanan says, no, I still nonetheless need the pasuk of bayom to teach me that lulav is only during the day and not at night. Because if it was only from Shivas Yomim, where Rabbi Eliezer learns it from, well, the Chacham say, I might be tempted to learn out a Gzeir Shava of Shivas Yomim from Sukkah, where it also says, Basukos Teshvu Shivas Yomim. Malahalan yamim vafilu leilos afkan yamim vafilu leilos kamash malan. Right, so the Chacham are concerned. Well, if I would only have from Shivas Yamim by lulav, I might think to compare it to the Shivas Yamim by Sukkah. Just like by Sukkah, Sukkah is a mitzvah both during the day and by night. So I might think that by lulav also it'll be a mitzvah during the day and at night. Therefore, the Chacham say I need the word bayom to say that it's only during the day that there's a mitzvah of lulav, not at night. Rabbi Eliezer says meh. Rabbi Eliezer says, from Shivas Yomim, I can learn out that it means during the day only for lulav, and that is that Bayom teaches me that even the machshirei lulav are doche Shabbos. Fine. V'lichtov rachmana belulav v'nesu hanach v'nilfu mine. So the Gemara asks, well, why don't you just why doesn't the Torah just teach by lulav that the machshirei lulav are doche Shabbos? And then it'll say, well, if machshirei lulav are doche Shabbos, well then also the machshirei omer, the machshirei shtei alechem are also doche Shabbos. Why do I need to be written by the omer and by shtei alechem and by lulav that they're all doche, that the machshirei are doche Shabbos? Well, mishum de'ika lemifrach malululav shekinton arba aminim. Lulav has got its sort of unique attributes in that it requires 4 species. The Omer and the Shtei Lechem don't require 4 separate species. Therefore, lulav is unique, and you can't learn out, from one from the other. Therefore, you need to teach that the machshirei doche Shabbos by Omer, by Shtei Lechem, and by lulav. Sukkah v'chol machshirei doche nesa Shabbos. Rabbi Eliezer, we said that Sukkah and all of its meta stuff are doche Shabbos. Minale Rabbi Eliezer. How does Rabbi Eliezer know this? So, imei Omer v'Shtei Lechem shekein tzorech gavoahu. Well, you can't learn out Sukkah from Omer and Shtei Alechem because those are Tzorech Gavoa. Imi Lulav Shekinton Arba Aminim. You can't learn out Sukkah from Lulav because Lulav is 4 species. Sukkah is not. Ella Gomer Shivas Yom Milulav. Rather, we learn it out from a Gzeir Shava, not just logically from Lulav to say, well, if it applies to Lulav, it applies to Sukkah, the Machshirei mitzvah being Doche Shabbos. But rather, we actually learn it out from a Gzeir Shava, from Lulav. That just like it said, right? So it says Shivas Yom by lulav, and it says Shivas Yom by Sukkah. Malahala machshir of dochenes Shabbos, avkan nami machshir dochenes Shabbos. But just like by lulav the machshirin are doche Shabbos, so also by Sukkah the machshirin are doche Shabbos. V'lichtov rachmana b'Sukkah v'nesei hanech v'nigmor mine. Why don't we just write that by Sukkah the machshirin are doche Shabbos? And I'll say, well, if by Sukkah the machshirin are doche Shabbos, well, the same would apply to lulav and to Omer and to Shtei Alechem. So we say, no, you can't do that. Mishum de'ika lemifrach malasukkah shekinoeges baleilus kavayamim. Sukkah is unique in that it is shaykh both during the day and at night, which is not the case by lulav, by Omer, and by Shtei Alechem. Therefore, we needed to learn out that machshirei doche Shabbos by all of these cases individually. Matzah v'chol machshirei doche es Shabbos div Rabbi Eliezer, Menadeh li Rabbi Eliezer ha. So Rabbi Eliezer says that matzah and all of its meta stuff, like I guess harvesting the grain and baking it and all that stuff, is going to be doche Shabbos. So how does Rabbi Eliezer know this? So imei Omer v'Shtei Alechem shekein tzorech gavoa. Well, you can't learn it out from Omer and Shtei Alechem because those are unique in that they are tzorech gavoa. Imi lulav shekein ton arba aminim. You can't learn out matzah from lulav because lulav requires 4 species. I misukkah, shekei noeges b'leilos kivayomim. Well, you can't learn out matzah from sukkah because sukkah is noeg both at night and during the day. Whereas the chiyuv to eat matzah is only the first night. So Ella Gomar Chamisha Asar Michag Sukkos. We make a Gezer Shava of Chamisha Asar, which I feel like in the Yeshiva Shesprach is like Tesvav, but I was trying to figure out, is that what it's called or is it called something else? I can't remember. But in any event, we learn out a Gezer Shava, matzah and sukkah, and therefore malahalan machshir adochen is a Shabbos, afkam machshir adochen is a Shabbos. Just like by sukkah it's machshir adochen Shabbos, well then by matzah also the machshir adochen Shabbos. V'lichtov rachmanim b'matzah v'neis uhanach v'ligmor minei. So why don't you just write that the machshirin of matzah are docha Shabbos, and then learn out all of the others from matzah. Mishum deika lemifrach malamatzah shekei noeges banashim kivanashim. Matzah is unique in that matzah there's the equal chiyuv both by men and by women, which is not necessarily the case by the other mitzvahs that we listed. So therefore, we need to write that the machshirin are docha Shabbos by all of these things individually. Shofar v'chol machshir of docha is a Shabbos. Rabbi Eliezer minole, Rabbi Eliezer ha. How does Rabbi Eliezer know that shofar and all of its meta stuff are docha Shabbos? You can't learn it out from Omer and Shtei Alechem because that's tzorach gavoa. You can't learn out shofar from lulav because that requires 4 species. You can't learn out shofar from sukkah because that is both during the night and during the day. And you can't learn it out from matzah because that's both by men and by women. But isn't shofar also by men and by women? Maybe according to this opinion, no. Or maybe it's a different shofar. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I thought it was the same for men and by women. Elo Amar Kra, rather the pasuk says, Yom Trua Ye'elachem Bayom Afilu B'Shabbos. Right? So rather the pasuk says, Yom Trua Ye'elachem, that the mitzvah of shofar is Bayom, and it says Bayom Afilu B'Shabbos, even if it is on Shabbos. Ulamai, what about it, even if it's on Shabbos? Ilem Litkia, if you're going to say, well, the Torah is saying that you're allowed to blow the shofar even if it's on Shabbos. Well, Hatana Dever Shmuel, we learned the base medrash of Shmuel. Kol melechas avoda lo saisu. It says on Yom Tiv that you don't do any melechas avoda yatzas atkiyas shofar v'ridias apas shehi chachma v'ena melacha, to the exclusion of blowing the shofar and taking down bread from an oven, because that is a skill. It is not a melacha, a burdensome work, and therefore I don't need the Torah to teach me that I can blow the shofar on Shabbos because it's not a malacha. Ela lemachshirin. Rather, what it's saying is that even the machshirin, I guess like removing it from the ram, would be doche Shabbos if you need a shofar. V'Rabbanan haumi baile bayom v'lo balayla. The Rabbanan learn out from bayom from Yom Trua that the mitzvah of Trua is only during the day and not during the night. Rabbi Eliezer bayom v'lo balayla minale. How does Rabbi Eliezer know that tkiyas shofar is only during the day and not at night? Nafkele mi biyom kippurim tabiu shofar b'chol aretzechem. So he learns that. So that he learns out from the shofar on Yom Kippur. That says on Yom Kippur it says bayom kippurim, on the day of Yom Kippur, only during the day, not during the night. And that applies both. So he learns out Rosh Hashanah from Yom Kippur. Fine. V'gamer mea dade, and they learn out one from the other. V'lichtov rachmana b'shofar v'leisu anoch v'ligmru mine. So then the Gemara asks, well, why don't you just write that, well, if shofar, it and its machshirin are docha Shabbos, well then let's say that all the other things as well, that, shtei omer, shtei alechem, and omer, and lulav, and sukkah, and matzah, etc. Let's say that all these things, so let's just learn out from shofar that it and its machshirin are docha Shabbos, and I don't need to learn it by each of the other ones individually. So the Gemara says, no, you can't do that because of Tkiyas Shofar to Rosh Hashanah lekam libigmar. You wouldn't be able to learn it out from Tkiyas Shofar and Rosh Hashanah. Shekein machneses zichronos sheyisrael avian shabashamayim, because that is unique in that the Shofar of Rosh Hashanah brings together and gathers all of the remembrances, hopefully the good remembrances of the Yidden to their Father in heaven. So that makes it unique. Mitkiyas Shofar Yom Kippurim lekam lemigmar, and we can't learn it out from Tkiyas Shofar and Yom Kippur to all the others. To Amar Mar Taku Bezdin Shofar Niftu Avadim Levateim V'Sadus Chozos Levailein, that when they blow shofar on Yom Kippur of the Jubilee year of Yovel, well then at that point the Avadim go back, the Ivris go back home, and all of the fields go back to their original owners during Yovel. So we see that the blowing of the shofar on Yom Kippur is very unique, and therefore we can't learn it out to the other cases. Okay, well, that was Daf Kuf Lamed Aleph of Masechta Shabbos. Yeah, there was definitely that difficult patch at the beginning with the mavuis and chatzeros and batim and eruvs and shitufei mavos and that stuff. So let's just review that. So we started out talking about carrying in a mavui, right? So Rav had said that you have a mavui that does not have shitufei mivoos. And we said that if there was an eruvei chatzeros in the courtyards, well, then you may not carry in that mavui for more than 4 amos. If there's no eruvei chatzeros, then you may carry in that mavui more than 4 amos. And the question is why? So we tried some complicated suggestions. In the end, we had Rav Ashi who says, well, because Rav holds like Rabbi Shimon that you're allowed to carry from a chatzer into a mavui, onto a roof, into a karpaf, all that kind of stuff. However, that is only if you can be 100% sure that whatever you are carrying in these places were there when Shabbos started. If you have an eruv, well then you can't have that guarantee anymore, because maybe when Shabbos started this item was in the house and then you brought it out to the chatzer because you had made an eruv, but then you would not be allowed to transfer that between the chatzer and the mavui. So therefore, when there is an eruvei chatzeros, that becomes more complicated, transferring things between a chatzer and a mavui. Therefore, we're more strict, and we say you can't carry in the mavui more than dalet amos out of concern for carrying between the mavui and the chatzer. But if there's no eruvei chatzeros, well then there's no problem to carry between mavuis and chatzers, etc., and therefore you can carry more than dalet amos. Now, if there was a shitufei mavos, then all this stuff goes away because there's no problem carrying between anything. Now, Rabbi Chia bar Abba says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that when Rabbi Eliezer says that machshirei mitzvah is docha Shabbos, it's not by all mitzvahs. It's only by the mitzvahs that we specifically learn it from, such as by bris milah, such as by the omer and the shtei alechem and lulav and sukkah and shofar and matzah. Right? These are things that machshirei mitzvah is docha Shabbos. However, something like tzitzis, something like mezuzah, the machshirei mitzvah would not be doche Shabbos. The question is, what is unique about tzitzis and mezuzah? Rav Yosef says, well, there's no specific time for these mitzvahs. They're just kind of always relevant. As long as you have a garment with 4 corners, tzitzis is relevant. As long as you have a house, mezuzah is relevant. Abaye argues and says, well, the fact that they don't have specific times means that every time is their time. So rather, Rav Nachman says in the name of Rav Yitzchak, some say it was Rav Huna, Breda Rav Yeshua, that but the difference is that you can be mafkir your garment, you can be mafkir your house, in which case you don't have a chiyuv to do these things. But that's not the case by sukkah, lulav. You have to do this mitzvah, and that's that. So therefore the machshirin are docha Shabbos as well. And then we just went through a whole bunch of sources for where Rabbi Eliezer learns that, when he says that things are, the machshir mitzvah are docha Shabbos, why? And we go through each case and explain why, and why we needed to be listed in that manner. Well, that was Daf Kuf Lamed Aleph of Masechta Shabbos. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope you really, really, really enjoy your day.